Good morning and welcome to Better Thyself segment of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. All of us always say we listen, but do we really listen? No, we only hear. Most of the time, this hearing doesn't register. It's a voice lost in cacophony. And especially when we are talking to a person whose ideas don't gel with us, whose ideas we do not agree with. This listening is simply absence by not being there. It's conspicuous by its absence. They hear all right, as I said, but it's important to listen, and especially to those people with whom you don't agree. If you want to be a better professional, better human being, it's important that you listen carefully, register, and then respond, especially someone that you do not agree with. How to do that? Instinctively, you won't do it. You would always try to avoid listening to somebody to whom you don't agree. Because listening is not the most exciting part of the conversation. But if you want to have a meaningful exchange of thoughts and ideas with another person, especially when you don't agree with that person, it's important to listen. Think about the time that you felt you were misunderstood by somebody. Did you defend yourself, correct them, or simply disagree? Regardless of your response, you likely did not feel comfortable with them. Now think how it feels to be understood. You can relax, you can open up, and you can do that. And you feel more trusting when the people listen to you. If you feel more trusting, don't you feel that the people should trust you? When you listen in a way that makes the other person feel heard, they are more likely to share information with you. You remember once I had talked about how to ask a question so that the person opens up. And when you are actively listening, you are also more likely to be understood and your ideas appreciated. I can tell you that having a productive dialogue is not possible without listening, not hearing. You can hear all the noise, but it doesn't percolate to your brain. So the first active listening skill is a non-verbal attending. We always, when we hear, it's a verbal, but the non-verbal attending is much more important, and that is often ignored. What is non-verbal attending? You will ask. It means giving full attention without speaking. And what are the basics of this non-verbal attending? First, keep your body open to the other person. Be relaxed and attentive. Relax doesn't mean careless. If you are sitting, lean forward a bit rather than slouching back. When people come to meet me and when they're very, very careful, they lean forward to listen, and so do I. When you lean forward, you are shortening the physical gap, and that also reduces the mental gap. So, keeping the body open is the first important thing. Maintain moderate level of eye contact. Look at the speaker, but don't stare at him. Staring makes the person feel uncomfortable. Then use simple gestures to communicate to the other person. Then you are listening to them and prompting them to continue. Nod your head couple of times, but don't do it continuously. If you're doing it continuously, something is wrong with your perception or with your neck. Occasionally, you can say to encourage encouragement. You can say, "Yeah, I understand." Couple of words, but not too much, because too much is negating the process of listening. As I said, the final key is remaining silent. Just small sound coming, one or two words, that's all. Remember, you can't listen if you are talking yourself. In fact, if you rearrange the letters of the word listen, it spells silent. So listening is compatible with silence. Listen is an anagram from silent. But can you believe it? They are the same letters arranged differently. And when I discovered that, I thought it would be a useful thing, offering somebody uninterrupted time to talk, even for a few minutes, couple of minutes, is a generous gift that you can seldom give to another person. It doesn't mean that you have to keep your mouth shut, as I said. You have to interject. It may be meaningless, it may be a single word of encouragement. But if you keep your mouth shut hours and hours, it's insulting to the other person. So the main thing is you should not try to interrupt, because interrupting breaks the chain of thought. Some people find the most difficult part of listening is not talking. Remember, there's a deep humility in listening because the focus is more on understanding what the other is saying. It's not on saying everything that comes to your mind. You want to understand, that helps the speaker feel understood. And then reserve your speech for rebuttal, for disagreeing, and giving cogent reasons for that. So this is the first active skill. The second active skill is reflecting. So after you have listened, without interrupting, leaning your body forward, giving full attention, the second part is reflecting. And that means repeating or rephrasing key content or meaning from the other person. He has said something, he or she. Now, if there's no reflection on that, if there's no thought on that, if there's no contemplation of what the other has spoken, then that is simply garbage. You have to analyze what the other person has said, understand the meaning, extract the truth. A reflection communicates that you have heard what the other person has said. Rather than saying, I hear you, by reflecting, you show that you listen to them and sharing back what they said. It also confirms you have an accurate understanding of them. I've seen somebody, and many people do it, they make comments, and that's nothing but a rehash of what I have said or what I have written. No, it has to be your thought, similar, of course, but not the same words, not the same phrases. And I've seen some people and have just picking up your line and repeating it as if their repeating your sentence makes it a divine ordinance. No, it doesn't. And if you're a little off the target, you would find that the person whom you're talking to or whom you're listening to would get an opportunity to correct you. And that's important, because many times you might listen, but the real matter might still not be registered with you. So if you have listened and reflected and repeated what the person said, I think you say so, such, such, such. I think you mean this. Then the other person said, no, I didn't mean it. I meant this. So that will enable you to absolutely comprehend and all those notions of disagreement, all those ideas where you can differ would slowly melt away. The most important part is give and take of thoughts. For example, let's say a friend tells you, I just came from a parent teacher association and I'm frustrated with with these schools. They're draining money from the school system, which is already stretched. The taxation is so high that we cannot support the school systems. The students' education is costly. The teachers are that's a plus. They are weakening the teachers' union. I wish the charter school parents would put their energy into supporting the system instead of creating a new one. And if you said, just repeat it, they are ruining the educational system, then your friend would most probably say, well, not exactly ruining, as much as creating challenges for the existing school. That's the most important school. That these charter schools which are coming up are not ruining the school. They are posing a challenge so that other can improve. And that is what is more important. I know you must be wondering, isn't it weird to repeat what you are saying? Or they just said it. Why should I say it back? Am I an echo chamber? No, you're not. As I said, don't repeat, don't echo what you are saying. Mull it in your thought, and then you can say, well, I suppose you said it, but if you disagree, give your reason. And if you agree, give a cogent reason why you agree. Reflection typically feels more awkward for the person doing it. I know. You are reflecting and then you repeat it. But the person when whom you were talking to, when he listened, you reflected. Then he would appreciate it that you have really tried to follow what the person was saying. That you are not some useless receptacle in which he can deposit anything he wants. And that's when the real debate emerges. That is when the exchange of ideas comes out. What I know and what's supposed to be customer research is that the people are having thoughts and feelings. And when they're reflected back to them, they enjoy it. It gives a certain emotional warmth as well. And that is what has made you better human being. But as I said, don't just repeat them word by word. Use fewer words and don't just transcribe what they have said, summarize it. Once I was reading something and I said, well, why do we say the word summarize? I'm very weird that way. I object to the certain words when they become too common. Why not say nuggetize? Nugget is a jam. Small, valuable piece of gold is a nugget. So is a diamond. So why not call nuggetize? You are summarizing it, but with meaning. Get at what they are saying as a nugget. Say it briefly. Don't interrupt the flow. Focus on something that's meaningful. The person may be talking all that. Or maybe he's talking all bullshit. But there must be some kernel of truth in that. That is a nugget. So nuggetize what other person is saying without interrupting. As long as the person is speaking, keep quiet. Accept those interjections of yes, mm-hmm, like that. And then nuggetize what he has said. Pull out the idea, the heart of the matter, as Graham Greene would put it, of what they're saying. And you can preface, as I said earlier, I hear you saying so, I think you sounded like this, and so on. The critical role of reflection is to help people feel that they have been heard. That's important. If they've been heard, half the battle is won. And not only heard, but you have understood them. And the third active listening is ask open ended questions. When somebody is talking to you, many things will pop up in your head and you will want answers. Questions are very appealing and they have a potential to interrupt other person's thought, shift the focus of the agenda. They can also derail the conversation. So, when asking a question, keep few things in mind. Always attend and reflect before you ask a question. Is the question relevant? Is the question related? Is the question being born out of that what the speaker is saying? Has he already communicated? Can he or is he going to communicate it? Many times you ask a question and says, well, I was going to say it. If you wait for a couple of minutes, you would understand it. So you may feel asking questions communicates your interest. That may be true. But if you ask a question without reflection, then no, it doesn't say. But suppose you ask a question, I'm interested in what you just said, and then ask a question, or I'm interested in your response to what I want to hear about. That shows your interest, and that will prompt the other person to appreciate your question and answer it. Your questions should be asked so that you're promoting a dialogue, and no question should be asked with requires an answer yes or no. No, ask an open-ended question so that the debate can continue. If yes and no questions are asked, they are meaningless. So just as the reflecting, keep your question simple. Resist the urge to try to guide or impress the other person. And I normally, when I have to ask a question, I have developed a technique. It is to use a keyword from the talk with an upward intonation. For example, if somebody says, I just feel the world is so dangerous. If I have to ask a question, then I say, dangerous? Well, what's dangerous about it? Tell me what is really dangerous. So he can't say yes or no. He has to explain what is really dangerous. And then in your tone and your content, don't try to be aggressive. Try to be clear. Try to be neutral. And the final thing to keep in mind is about attending, reflecting, and open questions is that these tools are going to enable you, help you promote understanding with greater connection. And connectivity is a thing. You will not have disconnect. These tools can enable you to be a good listener. These tools can enable you to be a good professional. These tools can enable you to set up a level of communication which you normally do not have. And that is being a better person, a better professional, a better human being. And isn't that what you want?